You are now listening to Project XXcast podcast series.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're listening to this from in the world. This is the first ever podcast for Project X, the Xcast. Today I've got two young co-hosts here. Do you want to introduce yourselves? I'll go to my left first.
I'm Nathan.
And to my right?
Nathan.
You guessed it, they're both Nathans. Today I've got a special guest. This is like, I'll just say, this is the first podcast. So if there's any hiccups, bear with us. But I'd just like to say thank you to our special guest for being the first guest on Xcast. That's a big, remember that, because in a few years, Xcast is going to be taking over the world. And you can say you were the first guest. So without further ado, I'm introducing the man, the big man, the chief executive of Kingston Council, Ian Thomas. You have a round of applause, some sound effects, something.
Yeah, so I'm Ian Thomas. I'm the chief executive of the Royal Borough of Kingston, and I'm glad to be the guinea pig and the first of the Xcast series that's going to take over the world. So I'm really pleased to be here, and it's an honour to be here as well. Actually, it's quite a privilege. So thanks to you guys for inviting me today. Really appreciate it.
It's great to have someone of your stature come on the first show to set the levels. Today's episode is about entrepreneurship and success. I'm just going to sit back for a little bit and I'm going to make my young stars of the future take the floor and ask any questions they feel to ask Ian and just get insight. So yeah, over to Nathan.
So the first question that we've got, what was it like growing up for you?
I'm from a place called Sheffield. Yeah, so, we have London, but you've got other places too.
Sheffield United.
Yeah, and Sheffield United. That's exactly right. And Sheffield United is my team. And that's where I grew up. And I grew up in the 70s going into the 80s. I went to a very normal upbringing in terms of, when I say normal, in terms of I went to comprehensive schools. My parents were working in steel. We're Jamaicans in terms of our heritage. They came over to help rebuild the country as part of what we call the Windrush generation. Like I say, went to school in a normal way. And when I was growing up, there was a lot of racism around that was more what I'd say in-your-face racism. People call it overt in-your-face racism, where call people names. Whereas today, it's just much more subtle in terms of the racism that you see. So when I grew up, you had some of that around. The fortunate thing for me is that I was good at sport, and I was a keen footballer. I played for Sheffield United from the age of 9 through to the age of 16, juniors, and that helped, because it helped me. I was popular at school, and I was also quite a big lad growing up as well. So I could kind of look after myself as well. So that kind of helped. Against the backdrop of an era where racism was much more in your face than it is today, I'd have to say. Of course, we have some awful things and heinous things happening all over the world. But in the 70s, when you had the National Front and British National Party, that movement, it was just you saw it much more around than you see it now. In terms of graffiti and stuff. I'm one of 6. So I've got 4 brothers and 1 sister, and I'm the youngest, so clearly the brothers used to bully me, but they can't do that now. They can't do that now.
Yeah, I was the younger child as well.
Yeah, you get spoiled, don't you? So that's nice, but they don't like it, so they bully you. But as I say, as a grown man now, they can't really do that.
Who did you look up to when you were growing up?
So because I really wanted to be a footballer, and I think that that didn't help in terms of my schoolwork really, because I was into football. So therefore, my natural hero was like Pelé. So I used to watch videos of Pelé. I used to look at his skills, and it's just like techers day in day out for Pelé. Pelé was the guy, and so he was my kind of idol and role model. Growing up, so it was all really about sport. And then I remember the the other distraction, actually, when I was 14, 15, is that I got a girlfriend, and she took me off track of my studies as well. That's just a wrong move, sort of. I should have been concentrating on preparing for my O levels, and I met my first girlfriend, and it's my fault, but on reflection, she was a bit of a distraction to me. But these things happen.
You have something in common.
Yeah.
Well, I can advise you then, and it's so hard. And what I would always say to young people is, you've got to live your own life, and you've got to, you've got your own path. You live your own life, but sometimes it's good to listen, and it's hard. And I've been there. You want to make your own mistakes, and I get it. But sometimes it's really good to have the benefit of people who have been there and kind of done that, and you can benefit from the experiences of positive people around you so that you can avoid those same mistakes. So I wish that I would have had someone speak to me a bit like today, really, because my parents were good people, and they are good people, but because they're much older now, clearly, but they were just working hard, sort of like 24/7, and I couldn't really speak to them openly, like how many young people, you've got Project X and these brilliant workers around you and other people and positive people around you to talk to. We never really had that. We had the kind of the scouts, and I had the youth club, but that wasn't really for me personally. So it's good just to take some advice every now and again. It's a good idea. So I don't know who's got the girlfriend, boyfriend, the partner, whatever it is, but just focus on that schoolwork, or that and education.
Yeah, I realised.
You're not going to listen to me, are you? He's just saying, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
to be fair, I realised that a bit
yeah.
late. So it was halfway through my GCSE year, and then I broke up with my girlfriend.
Oh, yeah, sad.
Yeah.
See, you broke. See me. I didn't. You broke up with your girlfriend. Innit? I just told her. I paused her. Innit? I paused her through my GCSE.
Wow.
That's actually good. Put it on
So I didn't have to break up with her and break her heart, innit? So I just told her that I need to focus on my GCSEs. After I finished my GCSEs, and now I finished my GCSEs.
Yeah, but girls, even a break that'll break their heart.
Probably.
Temporarily, innit?
Temporarily, yeah.
They have that hope that maybe you might come back to them, but...
Yeah, maybe there's a way of saying it. If you say, I'm going to pause you, that might be a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Like they're a podcast or something. But, there's other different ways of saying that, yeah?
Yeah. Also, you mentioned racism growing up. How is that now?
So the way I explain racism now is that it's still there, as it always has been, and it kind of serves to oppress people of colour. And you have institutionalized racism, which is about a system that keeps black, Asian, and minority ethnic people down, and you see it in the statistics around leadership roles. I'm only one of 13 in the country that has this position as a chief of a local authority, and when you can look at the almost 696 chief executives of councils and hospitals, only 13 are black or Asian. Wow. That's just 2%. And the demographic in this country is 13%. So there's a massive gap there. Of the 1,099 most influential roles in this country, only 56 are occupied by black or brown people. So there's something going on in terms of that statistic. You're more likely to be stopped and searched if you're black or Asian or minority ethnic in terms of or subject to Section 60 in terms of COVID and fixed penalty notices. More black and Asian people overly represented in those statistics. You're more likely to be excluded from school, more likely to be sectioned under the Mental Health Act. The list just goes on. And it's something that, as a society, we need to stop. So your question, what is it like now, is a really good question, but it's complicated because it's not about someone calling someone names anymore. It's much more subtle and it's more sophisticated. And, we need to work hard at identifying these barriers, sometimes people call them glass ceilings, that prevent people from making progress, and we need to work together to remove those barriers.
Yeah, we do. You also said about your parents being part of the Windrush generation. How was that like growing up as well? That must have been tough.
So when young people say calm, is that good?
Yeah.
So that was pretty calm then. So right. So they had a really strong sense of discipline. My Jamaican parents they didn't play. So therefore, the children in the household, they were in charge. They were the bosses. What they said, we did more often than not. And discipline was a really strong feature in the family. So Mum was always really keen that we presented ourselves well when we're in the public. That we should have manners, especially for our elders. And that respect and manners thing, no matter who you are, you deserve respect. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do. There is no just cause, no good rationale for being disrespectful to anyone. And I've grown up with that instilled in me, that everybody deserves respect, and if we are going to get along, I need to respect your views, you respect mine, as long as they're not extreme. There are some people who have views that we would not condone. We've talked about some of those today, racists in terms of, or misogynists, people who hate other people just because of difference, people who are homophobic. We need to ensure that as a society we all learn to live together and support each other in that. And I believe that compassion is the first principle that we should have, and respect and having manners and courtesy for me is at the core of my value base and how we were all brought up in my family. So they came across from Jamaica with that. They had a really strong work ethic, which enabled them to buy their first home, and that's where we grew up in Sheffield. So I'm really grateful to them and for the example that they gave us too.
Did you ever encounter racism in your workplace?
Yes, a lot. And, I'm... how old do you think I am?
I guess.
Yeah. It's brave. This is bravery now. This is brave.
Don't
this
say
is quite
until
brave.
both of us are guessed.
Oh, this is the tension in the room now.
You said your grandfather.
Well, I didn't Did I say that?
He's a young grandfather.
Well, grandfather's not an age.
43.
43, so that's that. What do you say?
57. Because of the fact that your child is 28.
So you're doing all those maths, yeah? Working out. Okay, so no. You're both as close as each other. So I'm 50. I'm 51 next week. And the reason why I said that is because I've been working a long time. I've worked since the age of 16. So I worked, in fact, came to London to work first and studied whilst I was on the job. So whilst I left school with just 3 GCSEs, 3 O-levels, 3 GCSEs, I had to catch up. And that's the problem. If you are distracted at school and you want to be successful and make progress, you have to work harder at some point in your life. And, I had to work hard to get the paper whilst working as well, to get the papers, qualifications whilst working as well. So that's been, 35 years working, including part of that running my own business as well. And as part of that time. And you know what? I've encountered a lot of racism throughout all of that. And actually, because my role involves going for promotion and getting more responsibility, and there's like a sort of career ladder to climb to get to become the chief executive. There were lots of challenges along the way, and lots of racism. And it's what we said before. It's not the sort of in-your-face, name-calling racism that you see. It's the more what we call covert, underhanded, more sophisticated racism that I've encountered.
What barrier did you face when trying to get up the career ladder?
What barriers? Okay, so people will make assumptions about your background. People will make assumptions about you. So I've had assumptions like, I bet he deals drugs. Assumptions. I've had in my career when working for an organisation, my manager used the funds of the organisation to hire a private eye to follow me around. Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
That is crazy.
Spent more money.
Spent more money to find nothing at all. That's I think that's probably one of the most telling things, that people will make all these assumptions about you, what you do, or what type of person you are. I think that there's all sorts of assumptions around African Caribbean men being aggressive, and when I'm being assertive or just confident in my role, I've heard that construed as being aggressive or described as being aggressive. That's a typical one. Yeah. So, and I'm not being aggressive. I'm never aggressive. I'm like this, but I will make a point, and because I've worked hard and I'm well read, I will make a point, and it will be backed up with evidence, and often what we might call misconstrued as being aggressive, and that's just wrong. So they're just some examples of the way it's kind of manifested itself, the kind of racism and challenges that I've had.
So, what advice would you give to BAME young people who are wanting to become successful like you?
Advice to BAME young people who want to be successful. So I always say, I said it to my son as well, there's in life there aren't any escalators, only stairs, right? No escalators, just steps. Try not to go for the quick buck, the quick raise, because invariably the quick raise is going to be an illegal raise that will have you end up in prison or dead, frankly. I think that, and my story is about, hard work, and it's all a bit of a cliche, people say work hard, but I believe that in my life I've been able to balance working hard with having, a good life as well, and it's not all about work. Even in my organisation here, I encourage people to enjoy their downtime with their families and, have a laugh at work, enjoy life. It doesn't have to be boring. So I say to people, work hard. I also say that you can be whatever you want to be. I didn't set out to become a chief executive, and when I left school, people, my teachers would not have said that this was my trajectory, my path I was going to take, but it's been through just working hard and always being curious, asking questions like you guys do, always seeking to learn, which is a big one. And then there are the classics that the people around you will tell you all the time, stay away from drugs. Only bad can come of drugs. Keep healthy, keep fit. We had a conversation before we started the recording about having children. Delay that. I did part of my studies was about I did a teenage pregnancy dissertation, 30,000 words, just to find out how teenagers get pregnant. Right? I could have asked some people around the corner, but I wrote a lot about it. And for me, one of the things I found was that for the majority of teenage parents, it can really slow you down in terms of the progress you want to make. So more teenage parents are become unemployed, more have to rely on benefits. It's a traumatic and difficult time for teenage parents when they're raising kids. Of course, the things that you could be doing around, going out and socializing with your friends is much more difficult when you've got a child. So my other message to young people when I speak to them is just, delay that. That doesn't have to happen straight away. In terms of having the children, yeah. I see Nathan looking at me. There are ways of not having children, enjoying yourself. I see you looking at me. No, protect yourselves and develop and grow. But you are in control of whether or not you have children. You can take precautions, can't you, to not have children? I would avoid that in terms of a final piece of advice. So. And the other bit actually is what we said earlier around taking some advice sometimes. You haven't got all the answers. I don't have all the answers. There are people in my position and people who have bigger responsibilities than I have that haven't got all the answers either. So we all need to take advice. And I would say to young people that taking advice isn't a weakness. In fact, it's a strength if you can actually listen and take the best of the advice and balance that with your own, your own views of how to develop yourself.
Was there any point in your career that you doubted that you would become successful?
Yes. There's something called the Imposter Syndrome. Now, I know about these things because of reading, and, so I'm not making up. I've got some sayings that I make up, but more or less I'm getting it from reading and studying. So someone called Nancy Klein, she was called, and she came up with this phrase or this idea of imposter syndrome, and we all suffer it, and I've suffered it a lot. So whenever I get promotion, I suffer from imposter syndrome because you are always operating at a higher level than you were previously. So when I became a head of service, when I became an assistant director, when I became a director, and when I became a chief executive, you're always doubting yourself. And I think that's quite healthy, because if you don't, that could become arrogance then. Being a good leader is not being arrogant or thinking you know it all. So having that self-doubt, I think, is quite healthy, because it enables you to keep checking yourself and just, keeping your feet on the ground regards, where you're at, the fact that you're going to have to work with people. You can't, leadership's not about doing things yourself. Leadership is about working with other people and, influencing a direction of travel for your organization. So the imposter syndrome that I talk about is something that it affects many, many people. And you just got to be honest about that and own it. And I've suffered from it a lot.
Do you think that there is some point of this imposter syndrome that can just get a bit too self-critical, and that could just turn into sort of just 100% self-criticism, and you put yourself down and you just stop whatever you're doing in progress as well?
Yes, Nathan, absolutely. It does. So that would be what we call a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have to, and that's why talking to people is really, really good. So as a leader, I would encourage people, and young people, or any point in your life, have mentors. As you develop your career, you'll get, you should have a coach to talk these things through, because it can be a very lonely place in leadership, and if you don't have people that you talk to, what you describe can happen and have quite what I would call a pernicious effect, a negative impact on you as a person. So you need to have someone to talk to about these things, and they can help to rebalance these fears that you have within you, because we're all human beings. So, and through talking to a coach or talking to a mentor, they can help to put that balance in, so you get, you can be more confident that you can actually do a particular job. So it's a really good question, because unless you talk about it and get support with it, it can have the effect that you described, Nathan. It can hold you back and be quite debilitating.
What actually is BAME? You say, Nathan, your question said BAME in it, didn't it? Yeah, I don't know what that is.
And I think it's a really another good point, because you introduced BAME, Nathan. It's really good having you both called Nathan. That's so easy for me. I've hit the jackpot here, so it's good. So the BAME term has evolved over time. So language evolves. For a long period of time, people didn't want to use the term black because they thought it was offensive. But actually, black isn't offensive. The fact that the term black is associated with so much negatives in the English language is what makes it difficult. Because, when you look at the English language, everything that's associated with the term black, whether it's, a black mark in your book, whether it's blackmail, whether, Black Wednesday when the stock market crashed, you're the black sheep of the family when someone's the person that isn't doing well in the family. Those negative connotations are what affect that word, but the word in itself isn't offensive. And people didn't understand that for a period of time. So there has been various iterations of language over a long period of time. We used to say BME, Black Minority Ethnic. The term BAME stands for Black, Asian and Minority Ethnic, and is the latest. It's the latest description of people who aren't white.
All right.
And I have to say, not everybody likes it, and now there's an increasing movement that's pushing back on that term, because the problem with it is that it puts all people into one melting pot, as it were, into one category, when within black, Asian, minority, ethnic, there's a plethora, loads of different nationalities, races, cultures, religions. So the problem with just saying, oh, the BAME community, it's what we'd call homogenous. So people would look at that as it's sort of like, one homogenous set of people that you all treat in the same way. That can't be right. So, and that's why, whilst Nathan introduced the term, it is the term that's used a lot now. It's really common, it's commonplace, but there's a lot of pushback on that term right now. So I don't know what the next iteration is going to be, what the next term is going to be, but, I just know I'm a black man.
Yeah, can I just say that even if there is a word or a common group for ethnic minorities and then there's white people, that's racism. Going back to what you said, racism and going down and seeing a coloured person on the street and shouting something at them, that's what it used to be, and it still sometimes is. But now it's like, even in schools, like how you're saying the black sheep, and those other terms, but I just think word BAME, that's not indirectly racist, but it's not directly racist as well. I don't know how to
I think I know what you're trying to get at. I just think that the difference is that
the fact that there has to be something that groups all these communities together and then separates white people. That's, in my view, as a white person, that is racist.
And I understand your thinking behind that. I think that the fact is that when it comes to race, and outcomes and opportunities, people who are not white get a poorer deal in society, and that's just a fact. Yeah,
that's sad as well.
And that's the difference, isn't it? So you could be white English, white American, white German. You're white, so therefore, given you're white and it's visual, it's obvious. There's a difference between how society would treat you being white and me being black. It's just a fact. Now, in conversations I've had recently with other people about this subject, I'm not after any favours, just fairness. And you could be. It doesn't matter what it is. You could be. Women have had there's been a massive movement around gender and gender equality. There's been a massive movement around homophobia and the Pride movement, a massive movement for disabled people, and everybody just wants fairness. Yeah? And that's what we should be striving to achieve for everyone. And I think if we all worked hard to achieve fairness, then we'd have a better world right now. That's what I believe.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so go back to my football analogy, the playing field of life is an uneven one. Especially for black, Asian, and minority ethnic communities. Not especially. All of these inequalities are equally important, but especially given the Black Lives Matter movement and what's happened with George Floyd that set all this off, that brutal murder. People are just saying, "Look, enough's enough now. Let's have a conversation about this." And we know that other inequalities are really, really important, but we need to spend a bit of time understanding what's happening here. And the stats that I spoke to you about earlier in terms of black people in leadership roles or in these key positions, the reason why those numbers are low is because of institutionalized racism, and we need to get under the skin of that because there's no other explanation for it.
What do you think would have happened if it wasn't everyone in England who set off in ships hundreds of years ago and found Africa? What if it was people in Africa set out in ships and found Europe and England? How do you think life would be now? Because that's what started racism, wasn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could answer that, I'd probably be doing a different job as well, Sort of like, I just wouldn't even be here. That is such a powerful question, but I haven't got the answer. I'm not going to pretend I have.
Yeah, I'm not asking you
it's
for
just,
the answer.
It's one of those things that you think about and you ponder.
You discuss,
but you'd never know, would you? And, I need to reflect on and think bit more deeply about, because that question is deep.
Yeah.
And I've not got the answer to it. You could only have a guess at what might happen, but what evidence would you have to support it? I'm not quite sure if you that.
Yeah, the only evidence you have is something that's already happened.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
So going back to this private eye story.
Yeah, it happened. So I was young. I was 22. I was working in the Midlands for a charity, working with young people, teenagers.
So you were working for a charity.
Yeah, and they used charitable funds to hire a private eye to get me. It was, imagine if you had a centre that you could drop in. It was a new concept in Nottingham, and we opened at 12 in the afternoon, all the way through to like 10, 11 at night. You could get cheap food, you could get all your laundry done, you could see a counsellor, you could chill out, talk to one of the project workers. It was born out of a concept in New York called Open Door, I think it was, and basically we started this project. This project was started in the Midlands, and I was one of the first appointments to that project as one of the managers there, and project director hired a private eye because she had told people that I was selling drugs. So I think she was of the view that I was doing something underhand. Now, where did those assumptions come from? I'm from, at that point, I'd left London, qualified to do a job, went through the interview process, I was appointed, I was working, doing the role, and she had it in her head that I was doing something else, and that's why she hired the private eye.
It's crazy.
And that really confused me. I didn't see that coming, because she certainly portrayed as a person who was really pro equalities. So that threw me a bit. But there's a lot of learning from that. And in my advice to you guys as well, in any situation that's a negative situation, there's learning from it. So you can get positives out of every negative situation. You will learn and become stronger when you draw the learning from negative situations in the main. So how long did it take? So it takes a whole career to get to chief executive, and a lot of people, it takes some people longer, some people in a short period of time. I had a target to do it in my 40s and did it when I was 48. I never really took my career seriously until I was about, when I say really seriously, when I was about maybe 33, I got an assistant director job. So the key turning points for me, taking it really, really seriously, was then. I was 33, assistant director. I became a director when I was 41 in Derbyshire, and that was when I became a director. The average age of directors of children's services was 55. So I considered that I'd done that pretty early as well. So that was okay. And then I had this objective and a bit of a target. Then, if I was going to become a chief executive, I wanted to do it by the time I was 50, and that's what I did. But I didn't set out to become one. And I think that each time you get promotion in your career, depending on who you are, or I certainly speak for me, I thought about the influence I could have, the opportunity to achieve change in the next position. And it's just a matter of fact that you can make a difference in every role that you do. You guys are making a difference. It's just a different type of difference to the one I'm making, and there is a tremendous value to the difference that you're making every single day to the lives of the young people that you work with. Mine is a few steps removed from that, but I'm driven, and my values are driven by the change that we can make to society, and particularly to close the gaps between vulnerable people and those that are less vulnerable. That's what kind of gets me out of bed.
Well, what were your parents' reactions when you said, "I'm now the chief executive"?
It's like
it's like they won the lottery.
Yeah. Well, not really. Not really. I'm describing it from the lottery, but I mean, it's hard work. But they were proud,
Yeah.
Really, really, really proud of it. I think my mother, she knows it's something quite important, but I don't think she understands quite how important it is in terms of the role.
With someone who doesn't affect, they can't think of how big it really is.
Yeah. My old man has has got more of a clue about that. He's a sharp cookie. Still playing his dominoes that he loves so much. So he's sharp. He gets it, and he's just really, really proud because they know about the work that it takes to do it and the hard work that's gone in it. And anybody that's close to me has seen that hard work. So they were really proud, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Who's your favourite artist?
So I typically like urban music. So typically urban music. I typically like urban music. So I like reggae and I do like hip hop and soul and I do like some grime stuff. So that's I do. That's what I like. So the guy of all guys in terms of reggae music, and it's just
Bob Marley.
Yeah.
And Damien, the whole sort of Marley family.
They're so talented, and I was pausing, thinking, my God, it's a bit of a cliche, but they're just so talented. And the reason why Bob Marley is so good is that he was able to relate to normal people, say just the everyday people, and he would break down very complex concepts, I'd say, that affected the world, and he'd break it down and communicate to people through his music.
Yeah.
And that is a art. And that's why I respect him, not just because, it sounds nice and I'm just driving my car and it's nice. This guy was a seriously talented and clever guy. So that's him. And then on the sort of, so I like Drake. I think Drake is very good. I think he's very talented. As an artist, he's amazing. And I'll give you one more. And actually, in fact, I'll give you three that you just know. I do think Storms is fantastic. I do. I think he's so clever in what he's done as an artist. I respect the fact that he gives back as well. You guys know that in terms of what he does for young people. So I absolutely respect that majorly. I like Dave.
Yeah, Dave's good.
Because Dave, again, is a lyrical genius. And I joked earlier that you'd stolen one of H's bars, didn't I? But I think H is really good. And being from the north of England myself, I'm going to have to call it rep.
H is
right?
quite new.
Rep for the north. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter if he's
really
new.
Young.
He's young.
19.
Yeah, he's young, isn't he? But he's fresh, and he's from the north of England, and of course from Manchester. And I just think he's got tremendous talent. And then I was just thinking about. I went to see. I'm thinking I'm going to lose all my credibility now. So I went to see Beyonce in concert, and she was fantastic. She was amazing. And
energy on stage.
Yeah, she's got skills.
So when you're not being the chief executive and with this big responsibility, how does Ian Thomas relax?
Well, yeah, what is
When
your
you're
day-to-day life?
Yeah. Out of being, like I said, running such... Obviously, this job comes with a lot of responsibility. So when it's not that, just run us through what that would be like. What would Ian Thomas be doing? Where would he be at?
Just really normal. Like, sport, I'm a big sports fan. We've got sportmen in my family. Jessica Ennis is my cousin. Just thought I'd just drop that in there. Just say, just drop it in. It's not a problem. Just calm.
X-cast, bring it on.
She is. And so sport's big. And my football team's Sheffield United. I do a martial art. Have you heard of Wing Chun?
Yes.
So I do Wing Chun. So that's good. That keeps me occupied.
We got MMA sessions running.
Really? Wow. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Wing Chun in there.
Yeah. We've talked about music, and music's a big part of my life as well. I like listening to music, and then just to relax. TV is a good distraction. I.e., of course, I keep up on current affairs. It's part of me and part of my professional role. And when I'm relaxing, I like to watch box sets. I enjoyed Top Boy. It was really good.
Yeah.
I think Top Boy is really authentic. I thought it was good. I like The Sopranos is my favourite box set. Godfather trilogy, Sons of Anarchy, Breaking Bad. There's some really really good box sets. Just watch one called The Fall, and that's pretty deep. It's, so good quality TV material helps me to relax and you know what, when I was younger, because I'm not so young anymore, but I used to go to like a bar, or even now I go to a bar maybe with my wife, a club when I was younger. So those normal things I did, but now more, a meal or a coffee with friends. So, pretty ordinary things.
I would just like to say also, Top Boy season 4 coming on Friday.
Is it starting on Friday?
Is it?
Is it starting on? You mean they're starting?
No.
Are they starting to record on Friday?
No, comes out on Netflix on Friday.
Really? Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And I think that the last one that Drake was involved in terms of the in terms of the production with Dave and the role he played in Modi.
Yeah.
It was just,
Dave was Modi.
Modi was.
Drake.
No. Dave played Modi. Yeah.
Yeah, Dave played Modi.
Yeah. But the best one, the best actor in it all, is Kano.
Scully.
Oh, Scully is absolutely.
Actually,
I like Scully. Actually, but
Sully. Yeah.
Sully is the best.
I like Sully.
without any training or drama school or whatever. He's so natural.
We've had
really good.
Ricky. Yeah, we've had Ricky and even before,
Ricky.
One that plays
Jason.
Who's he playing? Top Boy.
Jason. Yeah.
Jason.
Oh, Jason.
Yeah.
Oh, horrible end to Jason's story. Awful.
Jason worked with
Why
us
did that happen?
Really?
on music and stuff with us as well.
Why?
Why does Jason have to die in that fire, man?
It reminds me, I watched Blue Story. I don't know what you guys thought.
Yeah,
about
Blue Story's calm. Yeah.
Some good lessons in Blue Story as well.
Ghetto boy.
Yeah, there's some good lessons.
Girl
But
Boy Madder, yeah.
yeah, so it's a wide range of different things that I get involved in, and it's just all about ways to switch off from work and to relax, really. And I'm a believer in spending time with family. I've got a lot of nieces and nephews that I enjoy spending time with because they're coming up and I like sharing stuff with them.
Yeah.
As well as I've got my kids. They never stop costing you kids. That's another reminder. Yeah. Delay it. They always come back for more money all the time.
Yeah,
Mine are adults now.
Right now, I don't ever want to have kids. But if I ever do...
Yeah,
but if I ever do, I would build up, like you said, $250,000 before I ever have one.
Before?
Yeah, before I ever have one.
Okay. Is that the time already? At least I've got my shirt. I've got my Project X shirt.
One question before you go. Just touching
I'm
on.
really proud of my shirt, so thank you guys to bringing my shirt. Where is it anyway?
I've got one final question. You said that you learned a lot of stuff like from reading books.
Yeah.
My question was, what 3 books would you recommend a young person growing up would be good for them to read? Is like a life lesson book.
There's audiobooks now as well. So.
Yeah, audio, yeah. So you don't even have to read it. You can listen to them. Is there 3 that you recommend?
That's hard because of the audience that you're asking me to recommend the book for. And what I'm thinking of is, a book that
what I meant was that a
digestible.
book you would recommend that young people wouldn't have read, but as someone giving the advice to them to say, look, this would help, this could cut your journey down by just taking this information in at earlier time. Then, like you say, we might, when you're 18 and when you're 25 or 30, you might not be ready to take something when you're 18, but if you did, it would have helped you when you were 25. Because I've been through this. If you look at this would help you have a better understanding.
Okay, so there's a book called The Chimp Paradox, which is by a guy called Professor Stephen Peters. Sounds a bit highbrow, but I wish that I would have read it earlier because it tells you about how your brain works and how sometimes if you react, a lot of young people, just people get into tricky situations or get into trouble when they just react with emotion. And the Chimp Paradox tells you how your brain works, and there are 3 major parts of your brain, and it tells you about how you should use a certain part of your brain more because you think about things before you act. So that's the reason why that's good. There's a book on emotional intelligence by Daniel Goleman, which also helps you to think about other people, not just yourself. So it's like you empathize with people. You get to understand the way that people are feeling and thinking, rather than just thinking about yourself. And then another one probably, we talked about the Imposter Syndrome. Nancy Klein, she wrote a book called Time to Think. And again, that's probably placed to what I said about taking time out for yourself. It's not all about work. My work's really important to me, and I work incredibly hard, and so does my team. And the various teams that we have in Kingston, we all work really hard. But you have to take some time out for yourself. So I've been able to articulate for you guys what I do to relax and the things I get involved in. And that's really important, to have that time. You need to recharge, and you need to find time to relax so that you are effective when you are at work. And I think that that book will help with that. And I apologise if when you get into it, they're a bit, I don't know, because it's part of your leadership journey, I suppose. But if I'd have read those books earlier, I think I'd have been better prepared for the challenges that I'm dealing with today and beyond. So, okay.
Right, so just for the benefit of the tape, can you just name the 3 books? So we've just got it there.
Sounds like I'm under interview now, under caution.
Sorry, for the benefit of the podcast recording.
Exhibit A.
For the podcast recording, just so all these young people can take note and take it in.
Okay, The Chimp Paradox by Professor Stephen Peters, Emotional Intelligence, EI, which is by Daniel Goleman, and A Time to Think by Nancy Klein.
Cool.
Are 3 books that I wish I'd have read earlier.
Cool. And like you said, nowadays with technology, we've got Audible, so you don't even have to physically read them. You can listen to them just as how you listen to music. And this podcast, Xcast.
And now you don't need to bring a book everywhere. You can literally, if you want to read it, you can have it on your phone as well.
You like reading books?
Me? I wasn't into reading books, but I found out that most of the information we need are hidden in books.
I hate books.
So,
I've never finished a book.
with a passion.
But,
I don't like it.
I've never started a book and gone more than 5 pages because I'm also dyslexic, so it's hard for me to read. It's just I've never really wanted to.
So I was absolutely like you. The value in it, the reason why you do it is because you've heard of that saying, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And once you're educated, they can't take it away from you. Who can take that away from me? I've learned through reading and through what we call experiential learning through my experience of working. And I have that experience and I own that experience and I also own the knowledge that I have. But I'll never stop learning, because if you have a thirst for learning, you're always developing, you're always improving. So I'll never stop learning. And that's why it's important to read, to acquire the knowledge, because knowledge is power.
I think that's a good place to end it.
Well done, guys. Thank you. X marks the spot. Project X. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all listeners around the world, thank you for tuning in to the first ever Project X podcast, Xcast. And that was Ian Thomas, the executive of Kingston Council. I'd like to thank you very much, Ian, for coming in and being the first guest on air and giving such an insightful interview. I'd like to say thank you to my co-hosts as well, Nathan and Nathan. And hopefully you guys tune in to our next podcast, as we'll be bringing in more guests and having more conversations, touching on more topics. That was the Xcast. Tune in next time. See you later.